Hey folks, you hear the music, you know what's coming next. I'm going to make something. This is my making something music. Greg Otten here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I'm going to make a trellis. I've had lots of requests for trellis videos, and I'm going to do a series actually. This is the simplest cheapest kind of trellis you can make. I got a couple sticks here, I sharpened the ends, and I got some cheap jute twine, $1 from a dollar store, and a pair of scissors. And that's all you need for this. This is going to be the simplest kind of trellis you can make. I had to do a voiceover for this because it was crazy windy, as you can see where everything blowing around. So what you want to do is find a spot where the stick will go in and just drive it in on an angle, not 45 degrees, but a little bit of an angle, not straight up and down. That's my advice anyway. You're gonna put tension on it when you bring the two ends together. So I've got a line of peas going across this garden here. It's funny because we just had some frost, and I haven't checked, but I'm guessing these peas are all dead now. But they were growing great a few days ago when I filmed this. So anyway, you drive that in as best you can, or get some help or whatever. I find if you can get it down about a foot, that's all you need. You don't need to pound them in, anything like that. Depending on, it depends. A narrower stick is easier to drive into the ground. If you've got a big something with a 2-inch diameter, you might have to pound them with a mallet or something. I find these are about 1 inch in diameter, and they're just easier to drive in, and that's all the strength they need. Now this particular variety of pea, it's called Alaskan bush pea. They don't grow quite high, so I'm only making this 3 feet high. And I'm sorry for the camera angle. I should have angled this up a little bit better, but I didn't realize it till I had it all filmed. Anyway, I still think you can see enough. Basically just looping it around the other end there, and I'm going to pull the two ends together almost like a bow, like I'm going to put a bit of tension around. I got a bit of a tangle here, so I had to untangle the twine because I was reusing some old stuff that I had in a big mess. I just thought I'd leave that in there because it's totally real, and that's what it's like for real gardening. Things go wrong, but I did fast forward it so you don't have to suffer through this. This whole trellis took me about 12 minutes to make in total, I believe, so that's why I'm doing this all in real time. So all you do is you just wrap it around like that. And I'm doubling up the top because the most tension's on the top, and you start from and I'm just gonna put a couple half hitches around there. You start at the top and work your way down, because if you start at the bottom and work your way up, as you go up, you're exerting more leverage on the sticks, and the bottom layers will become slack. So you start at the top and work your way down, and you put a good amount of tension on the very top one, and then the lower ones, as you work your way down, you just pull it tight, but you don't crank on it. And I'm just working this thing down. I'm going down about every 6 or 7 inches. I put a line, and the reason for this particular plant I'm doing that is because generally speaking, peas will grow about 6 or 7 inches before they start to flop over. They'll grow maybe 5 or 6 inches, and they'll reach up with those little curly things that they wrap around. I find with a system like this, they'll generally find their way up. You might have to help the odd one that flops over, but usually they should find their way up. And this jute twine is great stuff because the texture of it, plants that vine like that have those little curly things that grab on. There's some technical name for that, it's just not coming to mind. Those things really find it easy to grab onto the stuff. It's also cheap, and it's also biodegradable. So I mean, when I wrap this garden up for the year, I'll just cut that jute off, and it'll just go in the compost bin, because it's made from bark or something like that, or some sort of fiber from a plant somewhere else in the world. So I mean, this is the easiest kind of trellis you can throw together. You just cut the string, compost the string. If the sticks are still good, you save them. If they're no good, you burn them or fire them in the woods, or throw them in your compost pile or whatever, right? It's completely biodegradable, reusable, cost nothing sort of trellis. You notice as I'm going down, I'm making them a little bit tighter, just to help everything get a really good grab on at the bottom. I think string that I was a used string that I was reusing. I ran out of that, so now I'm just using that spool that I got at the dollar store. You can usually get the stuff. I mean, they'll sell it at garden centers for like $4, but it's just just get it at the dollar store for $1.50 or $1.25 or less. I find it's just great stuff. All right, so I've just about I think I do one more tier down here at the bottom, and then what I'm going to do is do a couple of verticals as well. And that just helps to give it structure. And the other thing is that even when you get this together, it might seem a little bit flimsy, but you got to remember that these vining plants that have those things that wrap around, right? They have these little tendrils that wrap around. The plants themselves will add structure to the trellis, right? The fact that the plant is growing and it's grabbing on, it's going to give the entire structure more rigidity because the plant is actually almost pulling it together. So it's kind of I mean, you want to have it reasonably snug when you're putting it together, of course, but you don't have to be, it shouldn't be like a guitar string or a tennis racket or whatever. You don't have to worry about that, as long as you got, if it's reasonably just snug. That's the word I would use. Snug. Just snug up all those different layers. That's all you need to do. And as the vines work their way up, or whatever you're using, peas or beans or whatever the plant is that's got that vining habit, it'll grab onto the string and pull it together and kind of add to it. Because you think about the vining plant, it's kind of a string itself, right? Here I am. I'm driving a peg down in the center, and I'm going to stick a stick down. I mean, you could get a stick this stick wasn't quite long enough to go all the way from the top to the bottom and go down in a foot, so the stick was barely long enough to reach from the top to the bottom. So I just, that peg that's in the bottom there, I tied the string onto the peg really tight. But all I'm doing is taking a piece of string and wrapping it around the different tiers and around the stick at the same time in the center, right? And you want to do that every couple feet. Throw some sort of stick, something that's stiffer than string. It doesn't have to be anything amazing. And I mean, this isn't much different. When I do something like cucumbers, I won't use 1 inch. I'll use about 2-inch diameter sticks to hold that up, and I'll do a video on that. But for something like peas, this is fine. It would have been ideal if I'd driven that middle stick in down a foot as well, but the main thing is that the two ends are driven in good, and even this one, it's fastened to that stick that's down below, so that's plenty enough. That's fine. But see, I'm just kind of looping the string around, and just by adding that, just by working that in, it's made the thing much stiffer just in and of itself. I think all I'm doing here is tying that peg to the stick. Again, this is just me making use of what's there. I didn't want to use another big long stick. I'm just being cheap, I guess. I don't know. It's not like I paid for any of the stuff. I gathered these sticks in the winter. I got plenty of them. I don't know what I was thinking on that particular day, but I was just using something. I got these sticks that are about 3 feet long, and I really don't know, what I can't think of a good use for them, so I'm just trying to use them up there. It's just my general approach to gardening. I try to use everything up, and then I don't mind if it takes an extra minute or an extra knot or two to find a use for it. It's not a big deal. So that's a general idea. Now I think I'll do a couple more. I think I'll do another vertical piece. So I'll get a string that's long enough to go from the bottom to the top, cut that off, and I'll grab one of those, did I use a peg there? No, I just tie it onto the bottom. Oh, I thought I put a peg in. Anyway, you just tie it onto the bottom there, and I did use a peg. Okay, good. Yeah. I'm going from memory here, but you stick a peg in, and you're going to tie the string. Trying to find something to pound it in with. Ow, 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 ow. Anyway, you tie the string onto the peg, do a couple of half hitches there. I got a video on knots. Maybe I'll put that in the bottom left-hand corner at the end of this video. A couple of slip knot and a couple of half hitches. That way you can pull up on it and it won't pull the bottom row up. Right? You just loop it around each time and tie it to the top one. And so it's kind of like making a net, a very lazy. This isn't proper net making technique. Net making is much more sophisticated than this. This is just netty enough. And if you buy netting, that's way easier than this. But I mean, this only takes a few minutes, and it's very cheap. And what I love about it is that when it's the season's over, you just cut it off and throw it out. So I don't mind. And the jute, I mean, it's not super strong stuff, and it won't last forever, but I find it lasts a season, right? This is all I did for my cucumbers last year. And I mean, cucumbers they have some weight, and they grab the wind and that sort of thing, but it was perfectly fine. It didn't fall. We get some pretty serious winds here. I'm living, near the coast. I'm only 7 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean, like the actual coast. These sorts of things stand up for me just fine for a season. By fall, it's getting kind of warm. You're not going to get multiple years out of this string. It's a 1-year thing, right? But for the time it takes to set it up, which is not too long, and we're almost done here, you dismantle it in seconds. Right? Just take a knife to it, it's done. So definitely an easy way to take it apart. So that's about it. That's all you got to do. That's how you do it. So I hope you have found that helpful. That's my first video on trellis making. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.